It can't draw anything. Ugh, hate it. Good news is I don't have to go to practice today.
There you go.
Yeah.
Again, 203.
All right, guys.
You heard from Sam?
Sam is on the screen right now.
No, he's not. We've got a screensaver on right now.
Oh. Well, we're live.
It's also we're also
we are live
right
on
now.
YouTube.
Oh, we're live.
I'll
Hello.
have to do the screen after I start the show.
It's not us, folks.
It's
Just so you know.
I said we were going at 4 o'clock.
I'm sitting here waiting for
You
our
should tell
screen,
yourself you're
our
going at 4
monitor
o'clock.
that says we're on.
I shouldn't mess with Luddy
what are-
today. Luddy's
Luddy,
very snippy.
Are
with
these
Stars.
like the White Cliffs of Dover or something from some?
Is that not Finland that we're looking at?
No, I think that's just a random screensaver. That looks like the French coastline or something like that.
Boys, we're about as ready for this show as the Stars were for the first
Look at
period.
this, and that's another nice scenic vista. We can't see ourselves, so why would we know we're on?
Wait a second. Can I read a quote from the coach?
No, wait.
Why
Let's
don't we
open the
start the
show
show first?
and then we'll do that.
Okay.
This is the DLS Dallas Stars post-game show. We can't see that we're on, but we're on. Stars lose to the Florida Panthers. Let's get it going. We'll talk all about it, break it down. This is the DLLS Dallas Stars post-game show after the first game of the 2024 Global Series ends up Florida Panthers 6 and Dallas Stars 4, alongside Sam Nessler, Sean Shapiro, Craig Ludwig. I'm Owen Newkirk. Well, guys, that one didn't start off so well, and the Stars were chasing pretty much the whole game because of it. And, Luddy, you had some fodder from the beginning of the game that you had kept track of, but didn't mention in the pregame show. And then after the first period, you looked at me and said, take a look at what I found from pregame.
Well, I found a couple quotes. You know, it was from, well, let's just say, let you guys figure it out. Guys will be ready. That was from the head coach. That was yesterday, I believe. We got 2 important games coming up here. We want to be able to be dialed in for that and make sure we are ready to go. That was from Matt Dumba. And then the wins, not the wings, are now the focus for the Stars. And that was from number 95. So apparently they weren't quite as ready as they thought they were going to be ready.
And boy, was that an ugly start. The first goal, we'll get right to it because we can break all this down. First goal happened in 28 seconds. Sean, it's tough on we're going to talk a lot about the goalie, but Evan Rodriguez tip in from Ekblad is a good way for the Florida Panthers to get started. Is that one on your goalie or defense, or is that just a nice play by Florida? All the above?
Well, to actually prove that I pay attention to the tweets you guys put out when Lud's breaks downs, like that was miroheiskanen kind of takes the wrong route on the battle there to the front of the net. So credit to
Pay attention.
Lud's and go to the Twitter account to learn all those great things from Lud's. But I didn't like there was a lot of moments tonight for Jake Oettinger to me that you got to make the save, right? Like if you let that one in, but don't let in some of the other ones later in the game, it's fine and it's semi-excusable. I would have liked to see him play, honestly, a little bit deeper. Like it was actually one of those plays where sometimes the old adage of being right on the top of your crease isn't always necessarily the right decision if he plays a little bit deeper. And it's funny because he's a huge Henrik Lundqvist fan from growing up. I've talked before about how Lundqvist played deeper in the crease so he had more time to read those tips. That's something Oettinger probably should have done there. Just to me, it just set the whole theme of the night for Oettinger, where you needed your goalie to make a save, and he didn't, and the guy at the other end did, and it set the tone for the whole night for me, or day, or whatever time we're calling this, and it's contributed. That's one of the reasons you're losing this game.
I don't know. I say that all the time, Sean. I'm not sure where goalies are supposed to be because I would have thought that he would have been out more than it doesn't. doesn't have as much room to change. The further out he would be, the change of angle, I guess you'd cut it down. But I don't I don't know about all the intricacies of that, but I put this on Miro. I just think originally,
and that's fair. Fair. Yeah.
Rodriguez is standing behind him, and I don't think he sees him. Then he gets out in front of him, and when you're out in front of him like that, like I said in the video, you have to kind of wait for the shot to happen, and then you can decide which side to go. But I'm glad you said that, Sean, because I guess I was thinking the opposite.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's like there's multiple elements to everything. Like all of these goals, we can go back to the buildup for all of these, and just there's spots to me where I also think your goalie has to be a player too, right? Like sometimes we give the goalie like a pass of like, well, something happened to them. The goalie has to be a player too and held accountable at times, and that's the thing where Miro lost that battle. I think Oettinger also made a bad play on it as well, and it just kind of those things compounded and sets a tone, unfortunately, for Dallas.
Well, the Stars had a horrid start, not just because of the first goal, but it was a pile of chances as it was almost all Florida. Verhaeghe had a wide open shot in the slot. Oettinger made the save. Then Kulikov, Nosek, Kulikov again, Ekblad, and then Barkov scores to make it 2-0. Sam, it didn't feel like the Stars were ready to go, at least on the ice. It's compared to the Panthers, and Florida's speed on this play got up the ice faster than the Stars. Barkov, second of the year from Reinhart and Rodriguez, and that top line has 2 goals in the first 7 minutes and 11 seconds.
Yeah, right. They did all the classic mistakes, right? You talk about not having that area coverage, vicinity coverage that we've talked about a bunch. That's exactly what they had early in the game. That's why we had so many of those shots and those chances. As Sean said, Set the Tone was a perfect example. The tone was Florida was skating downhill and Dallas was scrambling, and that's exactly how that first period went, almost the entire first period. But that goal specifically for Barkov was, I believe it was Harley throwing that pass to Duchesne. It wasn't a bad pass or anything like that, but it was just one of those plays that it didn't seem necessary. It was like almost like a 3-foot pass that kind of just put Duchesne in a tough spot as he crossed the offensive blue line. Puck kind of chips off him, hits a skate, and Florida's going the other way. It's just one of those that I think we talked a lot about in that game against Chicago during when they kind of came back, is that's one of those situations, maybe just dump that puck in. And I think that's part of the ins and outs that you get with this push the pace offense, with the defense jumping up into the play. But yeah, those cardinal sins, turning it over on the offensive blue line as your defenseman jumps into the play, that's a tough one.
Amen, Sam. I said to the candy man next to me here at the start of the third period, I was going to keep track of how many times I thought the puck should go in for the Dallas Stars that started third period. And within the first 5 minutes, I had 7 of them that I thought they could be in, they could create some momentum. But they're built that way. They're built for puck possession. We've talked about that. The other team, not so much. That team is a team that gets to the center line. And what happens for me sometimes is when you get guys like Stankoven and guys like this that can skate on the wings, and if somebody carries that puck through the middle of the ice and you get past the red line in the middle of the ice, and then you want to carry it another 3 or 4 feet, well, what has to happen to that guy that's got the speed? He's got to stop at the blue line, at the offensive blue line. Then if the puck goes in, now you have to go and get it yourself. So I just think it creates a little bit of momentum.
The one thing I thought was really interesting on that goal, and Luddy picked it up on a replay, was many of you might have seen that Barkov kind of popped out from a screen of Marchment on Oettinger. So he didn't see it right away, and he beat him on the glove side, which you were talking to us before the show today, asking if that's a weak spot on Oettinger is that glove. But there was a pass, a very subtle little touch of the puck that changed the way that one got to Barkov. I
thought the original pass, if Reinhart doesn't touch that puck.
It was from Rodriguez wide.
Yeah, it came from Rodriguez. It goes to Reinhart, and if Barkov takes it and Reinhart doesn't touch it, it may go in his feet or may be on the inside. But Reinhart just takes it because he knows Barkov's left-handed. And he just takes it with his stick and he gives a little tap and it pulls it to the left of Barkov, right flat on his tape.
And if he doesn't, it's in his feet. It handcuffs him a little bit.
Yeah, and there were Stars were coming back, and that little split second there may allow somebody to get in, disrupt Barkov a little bit. And I think it's hard to tell. And Sean, you guys can tell me that. I didn't know if Marchment had screened Otter on this one or not.
Yeah, looking back on it, maybe. I mean, it's a great play by Florida. Sometimes you just give credit where credit's due. It kind of there was a couple of bad goals by Oettinger tonight, like the one in the third period. The Samasovich one to me is the real backbreaker. That's the most egregious of the bunch in the third period. But there was a couple on Oettinger tonight where it's in that category of you get to allow maybe one of those, and then we let it live because of what you do the rest of the game. But you can't let up 2 or 3 like that, like Jake did tonight. Yeah. So that's where I kind of come on that. And maybe he was screened by Marchment, but maybe he was like very similar to the first goal. Yeah, I mean, I just on a side note, I love watching Barkov play. Like he's such a he's a player who Florida for me is obviously from the Cup final last year is you get to see him do that run, but Florida to me is one of those like appointment viewing teams when there's not a Dallas game, there's not something else on that. I just love watching Barkov play. You talk about a guy who just controls the flow of the game with so many subtle things. Like let's acknowledge that too for a bit here.
Yeah, Sean, I was just going to say, how good is Barkov, though? Can we just say that for a second?
Yeah,
that's exactly what I think. You watch him, and it's just like that long stick, and he has that long reach, and just like whether it's in the offensive end, controlling the puck, whether it's passing, that pass for the Reinhart second goal is a beautiful thing. And then in the zone, he used just so casually, almost reminds me of Heiskanen in how casually he wins a battle on the boards. Like he just so quickly turns, and all of a sudden the Panthers have the puck and they're out of the zone. So yeah, I agree. Give him a little bit of credit on some of these plays as well.
And like Barkov too. Like I think we get so wrapped up in the Stars world, right? Like it was like, oh, roopehintz is playing the home game in his hometown and everything like that. Barkov was playing in his hometown too. Like I think like we talk so much from. We get so caught up in our own little like silo of like, hey, roopehintz is playing his hometown. It's going to be a big night for him. There's 4 Finns on the other team. First Finnish captain to win the Stanley Cup, playing his first game at home since doing so. Probably for a guy who hides his emotions very well, I imagine Barkov was pretty amped up for this one too.
740 games coming into tonight, 714 points for Barkov. And he's a plus 123. Oof. And if I remember correctly, when he first started in Florida, to put it bluntly, they sucked. You know what I mean? They weren't a good team, and he's still 123
and
on the plus
side. And he's playing in buildings that were barely full.
Yeah.
Or barely full, barely attended is more like it. It was pretty sparse there in Sunrise.
It's a hard building to fill. It's a really big building.
But they've been doing it since they got good.
I know, but I'm saying when he came in, like that's a building that was even harder to play. Unless you've played in that building, right? Like it's 4,000 seats too big already. Even if you were to fill it.
I mean, he's one of the, again, guys. He reminds me a bit. I use him too often. Yuri Lettinen. He doesn't do a lot of things wrong. You know, I mean, he's not this guy that hockey world talks about him, but I don't know how many people outside of the game really talk about him, because it seems sometimes he flies under the radar because he just does the little tiny things that you don't notice all the time, and I don't know what he's like, obviously, off the ice. It seems like he's a pretty quiet guy. I think most of them are. So, yeah, one of them kind of guys every team would love to have. Sean?
To Ludz's point, I had a conversation with Paul Maurice. I can't remember if it was the last season or the year prior, and you talk about the Yuri Lettinen comparison, Ludz, and Paul Maurice was just gushing to me about Barkov and how Barkov is a guy. He talked about how Barkov raises the culture of a group. How Barkov is a guy who very quiet, not the big rah-rah guy, but as a captain, Barkov is a guy who makes the guy who's the 8th defender, the 13th forward, the 3rd goalie. He makes them all feel just as important as him, and it's through the little meeting with the guys, that talking to them on his own, whether it's something at practice. And like Maurice was just, and this is Paul Maurice has coached the NHL for a long time. He's just gushing about this. These are things that as a man, what Barkov does, and as a human being for that group is like, these are things they'll never know about because Barkov will never tell you. So like when you use the Yuri Lettinen comparison, Ludz, to me, it's really spot on. Like it really is when you're talking about what Barkov does for this team and everything. You talk to any of those Florida players about things he's done for that group, you'll hear stories that you would never hear otherwise, because Barkov himself will never tell you any of them.
Well, the Stars got themselves going, though, guys, after a really wretched beginning to the game, down 2 goals in the first 7 minutes, as Tyler Seguin got one back at 10:45. It's his 5th goal of the season, 2nd most on the team. Lyubushkin gets his first point as a Dallas Star, And Matt Duchene tacks on another point, so he gets his point streak now, which I believe is up to 6 games. Nope, correction, that's his 5th straight game with a point. So Duchene continues to add to that. But this was just a simple play, Sam, of a guy trying something with nobody else around, and it worked.
Yeah, I think Seguin actually decreased his shooting percentage today with a 33 or something % shooting percentage on the day. But yeah, it seems like everything he shoots goes in. But that's a great play for Seguin too, because it's not random, right? Sean, I think you can recognize that.
Yeah.
That's not a play of just like, I'm going to throw this and hope for the best. If the player going in as the F1 there going after that puck doesn't see Bobrovsky somewhat off his angle or struggling to get back or whatever, that player's probably going to eat that puck in the corner and try to set up for an offensive zone set. But Seguin just spins around. First of all, wins the race, gets that puck and spins around and throws it. And yeah, sometimes you just need a bounce. And that was one where Bobrovsky probably didn't love how he played that, backing up in the net. And get stuck. It looks like it went like through underneath his one pad, off his left skate and in. So that's just a heads up play by Seguin.
Can we hold on, Sean, 1 second? I'm sorry to jump in here. Can we fill and talk about 7 more goals in one segment? We're going to try next here on the DLS Dallas Stars postgame show.
Do we need to? Everyone watch the game. Do we need to?
This is the postgame show. That's what we do. Next.
Do we need to? There's other things we can talk about. Floods is a nice looking bottle of whiskey right there. Let's talk about that.
Sean, when we go to break, you're supposed to be quiet for 3 seconds, okay? Jeez.
Well, I'm not going to be quiet if I'm going to start talking about Herman Marshall.
Please. I need some of that. Give me a glass.
Oh, you have some. Founded in 2010, Herman Marshall, Dallas County's first legal distillery since the repeal of Prohibition, located in historic downtown Wiley. Texas is proud to partner with the Guns N' Hoses Foundation of North Texas on a single-barrel expression of its signature straight bourbon whiskey. The Guns N' Hoses Foundation is a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing immediate financial assistance to the families of fallen police officers and firefighters lost in the line of duty. They're built from the grain up. Family, fellowship, friends. So for every bottle of single-barrel straight bourbon whiskey, Herman Marshall donates 15% of its revenue to the Guns N' Hoses Foundation of North Texas for those who went before. Stop into your closest goody liquor store to find your favorite bottle.
Let's talk about game time. Whether it's your favorite college football game, trying to get a game at the American Airlines Center, or anything else in between, nothing beats live sports. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events, which could also include music, theater, and comedy, even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Think about this. You get curated deals that make it easier to find the best prices. You get to see, if you would like, the lowest price guarantee, all-in pricing, so you don't see any surprise fees. You get the full price at checkout, the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will actually credit you 110% of the difference. Plus, you have great panoramic seat views from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what you're getting. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code DLLS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Sam, what time is it?
Game time.
I enjoy that.
I think it's time to let Sean finish his thought.
All right, Sean, what do you want to say? Apparently, he said John muted him. He needed to be because it was time to do the business side of it. And yes, Sean, to answer your question, we have a 1-hour post-game show. Do you want to spend the final 45 minutes talking about other things besides the game?
Yes, they started slow. Their goaltender got outplayed, and they lost a measuring stick game. So
see, typical writer, he wants to give you the lead and move on.
Hey, we got to say that's the way I look at it.
All right.
Do we need to relive every goal? Let's just go.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep going because the Stars had a power play after the Seguin goal, and they did not score. But, boy, they had a pile of chances. Wyatt Johnson had a really good rebound on a roopehintz shot that Bobrovsky was sprawled for. They didn't score, but they did really well. Then what happened, Sam? It was a penalty, and that turned the momentum, and I think that really cost the Stars as the Panthers would score on that power play. Anton Lundell on a tip play from an Ekblad shot, So the Dumba penalty, which I don't think he had to take, and then the goal meant the Stars finished the period down by 2 instead of a 2-1 game, or maybe they tie it because they had the momentum.
Yeah, the game was one of those where the Stars got momentum, the Stars created, and whether it was them actually scoring a goal or whether it was just creating momentum, Florida answered right back, and they punched them right back in the mouth. And it just kept happening, and that was one of those situations where it's not the end of the world, but if you kill off that penalty, and even if they don't, let's say they don't take the penalty, they had all that momentum, created it off the power play, you're down a goal, but there it is, a goal, and it's, as we're going to talk about, it's going to happen again where the same situation, and it just felt like the Stars kind of started to get their feet a few times throughout this game, and each time Florida just said, no, we're the Stanley Cup champions, and we're not going to let you get it, and that's credit to Florida, and also just Dallas not getting started early off.
If you want to be a penalty killer, you have to do some uncomfortable things at times. And in my opinion, number 24 backed out of a shot lane. And I think, they want to be out there. And unfortunately, you're going to have to block some shots and pay the price to keep the puck out of your net at times. And I thought Roope could have stayed in front of that shot a little bit better, and he kind of backed to the offside of the ice.
Stars have always been a team that has, at least in the Pete DeBoer era, pretty good in the second period at getting transition, catching teams with a long change, even though they too have a long change. And it seems to play into their strengths for the most part. And they started really quickly as Lindell scores in his home country. That's a huge moment for Esa. It was a phenomenal pass from Jason Robertson as Esa gets his first of the year. Duchesne with the secondary assist. And Sean, Luddy had a question about the way Bobrovsky handled that cross-crease pass.
Yeah, my question is, Sean, I mean, great pass by Robo. Bobrovsky, his eyes are on Robo. To me, it looks like he sees the play, but when I pause that puck, it goes 8 to 10 inches through the blue paint. And so as a goaltender, could he have just flipped his stick over, or is it just more of sliding across and trying to catch up to it? Because I thought, and again, this was a Belfour thing. I bring Eddie up all the time too. Yeah. Anything that goes through the blue paint, he would say, we need to make a play on it.
Yeah, it's a little bit more of it's actually it's an interesting thing to note, Luds, because Bobrovsky is a guy who actually uses his stick a little bit less in the crease than a lot of other goalies, and it's in a way, it's actually worked a little bit to his favor at times. He's made a couple highlight reel saves in his career with reaching across and making the blocker save by dropping his stick on purpose. And that's the highlight reel that comes across with. But part of his profile and the way he plays the position is he's not very active with the puck with his stick going through the crease. And I think as a coach and as a team, you come to know that is who he is and everything like that. And you'd like him to make that exact play you're talking about, Luds, but it's not I don't want to call it a flaw, but it's a characteristic of Bobrovsky's game is he is not active really with his stick the way a lot of other goalies are. Like you see even Oettinger on the other side. Oettinger will use his stick to try to break things up through the crease and everything like that. And Bobrovsky that's just not part of his game. And that's, if you're in a perfect world, I think a guy who's won 2 Vezina trophies in a Stanley Cup, a goalie coach can tell him to do it, but there's only so many things you can get a guy to do.
Stop the flow of his movement. Is that kind of what you're saying? Is that by getting another body part moving, it stops the flow of him moving left to right or right to left?
Yeah, it's very much a lot of it is he builds a lot into that side.
I'd say it breaks his rhythm.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Yes.
Okay.
Sam, the Stars could have tied it because Marchment had a chance all alone in front of Bobrovsky. It looked like he had the Florida goalie down, but he loses control, and then he got bumped afterwards. But I think he lost it before he got hit. Then, well, for the second time in the game, a bad penalty. This time, though, the Stars actually go on the power play, but the special teams works against them in this case because Sam Reinhart scores a shorthanded goal. It's his 3rd of the year. 4th for the team already in just their first 12 games. And this, just like that power play goal from Lindell in the first period, was an answer to the Stars scoring a goal and seizing some momentum. And instead of being a 1-goal game or tied, it's back to 2. And they kept chasing that, didn't they?
Yeah, that one felt like a gut punch, right? That one really felt as much that or the beginning of the third period were 2 that really felt like they hit hard. But 2 points off that. You mentioned the Marchment chance. I think Mason Marchment had a great game for the most part. He had a ton of scoring chances, a ton of shots. Right before that, he looked like he was going to score a couple times or get an assist to, I think it was Duchesne, and then he creates that chance in front. But the power play, Sean, I texted you and said, I know you did a film room earlier in the year about the power play and their entries and things like that, and it just got a little predictable. And that the power play looked predictable tonight, whether it was dropping that little short pass over to the boards once they enter the zone, whether it was the drop pass, whether it was those passes into the middle that we were just talking about. But that one leads to a little bit of a bobble puck, chip play, and Reinhart picks it up and then goes all the way down and picks a corner. That's a very tough 2-on-1. Giving up a 2-on-1 from center ice for Sam Reinhart and Alexander Barkov is probably the last thing that you want in this game. Luds, I'm curious. I'm not going to say anything because I'm not a defenseman, but I'm curious your thought how Thomas Harley played that 2-on-1.
Yeah, I looked at it because I saw your text. And so I looked at, and I was assuming that's one you were talking about. I looked at it over and over again, and I thought he played it fairly well, to be honest with you. I thought, and again, sometimes you just have to give credit to the shooter too. So, I mean, it was a great shot, a perfect shot. And I don't know if Jake was in the right spot, but I thought what Harley did, and I think he learned from a game ago. Remember the goal that he gave up and he wasn't looking the right way? That time he took the pass away. He was making sure the pass doesn't come across. In my opinion, you start getting below the hash marks. I want my goalie to have confidence that he can come out and challenge. And I thought he did a pretty good job on that one.
So it's more of a, is the play more of a take the pass away, and then once that guy starts to cut off his angle, you can kind of cheat over to get maybe get a stick on it? Is that kind of how you play it?
Well, see, I think what I've always tried to do is I'm just saying this is you, but I make sure that I don't get outside that far post. I'm still going to stay in an area where I can use my stick. If he wants to slow down and he wants to start making little moves, I can still get the poke check and I can reach that area. But I mean, Reinhart, to me, he knew where he was shooting it when he came in. And again, what does he have? A couple inches to hit that spot. Like I said, I just think sometimes you have to got those guys credit.
Yeah, I mean, that's the play where if you're looking at the video rooms and you're the defensive coach and everything with the other stars, you tell Thomas, you know what, hey, do that again. Don't use the goal to don't let that goal be the reason you don't do the right thing next time. You did the right thing. The guy made a perfect shot. That's how I would look at that.
So let's go to the third period. Mackie Samoskevich scores that early goal. Again, 4-2 down. They're looking for one to get back. Sean, is that a great shot?
That was bad. That was bad.
Brutal.
That one's bad. That one's brutal. That one's brutal. It's like awful.
Yes. Shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter if it's a great shot from where.
I'm going to say Joe Pavelski too. So ring the bell.
He wants to
for the hell of it.
Just play The Sky Is Falling.
What's the chicken one? What's the chicken one? Oh, that one? Yeah, play that. That's it? Yeah. Yeah, that one.
Did I get all of them?
Oh,
yeah, get him in.
That's the SpongeBob one.
Wait till I start adding farm animals to this thing.
Yes, the donkey.
This show you should. We should be doing this on a farm.
So go ahead, Sean. Details on why this is so bad.
Do I need to say that? I think anyone who has watched a game of hockey in their life knows why that was so bad. That's a terrible goal. Like I don't even think I need to I need to explain why that one was bad.
Owen, just let me put it this way. Stevie Wonder could see why it was bad.
Oof. Again,
I'm just saying.
Sometimes, guys, in a podcast about talking about things, we have to bring up the obvious and talk about them.
Yeah. I mean,
you tell us to be quiet so you can talk more, and we're trying to hand it back over to you.
Trying to host and you three wanting nothing to do with the show right now is pretty fun.
Yes, I'm just waiting. If you guys want, the three of you can just leave, and I'll just read the stats, and then we'll go to break.
Please don't leave me with you guys.
So, all right, fine. Look, they were chasing, and they gave up another goal. This one was Sam Reinhart's goal. He made it a 6-2 lead as he scored at the right post from Barkov. And the interesting thing was there was a review that actually had nothing to do with the goal. The game clock at Nokia Arena actually stopped during play, and they went over and checked and figured out where the time should be, but they kept the goal because it didn't really affect the run of play. And so Reinhart gets his second goal of the game, and the Stars, look, they would make some cosmetic adds to the score with goals from Maverick Bourque, which we should talk about because it was his first NHL goal, or the Jamie Benn goal late. But as Sean would say, that's window dressing, and it was a Panthers win because they got the 2 goals in the third period. The Samoskevich goal, which you guys want to talk about any detail, that was the game-winning goal today, guys. Just saying.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
I didn't see you.
Don't let
don't-
up bad goals that turn into game winners. Simple as
Don't-
that.
Don't lump me in with these two guys. All right, I was quiet over here.
Fair enough, Sam. You have the floor.
Yeah. I well, is it time for me to actually have the floor and talk about my favorite flooring?
Well, let's get to okay. So,
not a very good host. That's
no,
all
no.
I'm saying.
Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to your chat questions
Yeah,
next.
keep
So hit
winking.
up the chat.
Why is he winking?
We'll get to that next here on the DLLS Dallas Stars postgame show.
That was an excellent non sequitur. All right, with Empire
Not
today,
what that
you
is.
get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick professional installation, and a low price guarantee. They are your one-stop flooring shop. Empire today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they're going to have copycats, but Empire cannot be beaten on quality, service, or speed, so competitors can advertise low-quality products that Empire simply will not carry. Empire keeps shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need and not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. You can use their virtual floor designer to take a quick picture and see what the floor will look like in any space. Simple as that. Just take a snapshot. Schedule in a free home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code DLLS. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DLLS for details.
I would like to talk about Shady Rays with a graphic, if I could, because that's what the focal point of yesterday's costume
You
was.
just want to see yourself.
Turning the screws on my co-host, Craig Ludwig, who is still upset that he doesn't know how to use a Google Doc to put in a request to get his own free pair of Shady Rays. Look at those aviators. I think they make the otherwise meh guy look way better. If you'd like to get your own pair of Shady Rays, you should. It's an independent sunglasses company that is offering world-class products rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And, of course, they probably have your team's favorite colors and tons of styles. They have a lost or broken replacements policy. So if you ever have a problem with them, you can make sure you will be covered. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of going to shadyrays.com. Use the code DLLS for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Was it even time for a break? Because I legitimately have zero idea when we started.
It actually was
forgot we
perfectly
didn't-
time for a break.
I think
Amazing.
Owen accidentally said a pun. He said Sam has the floor now, and I think Sam actually thought that meant it was time for his Empire flooring read.
It was, but
Excited.
not quite that way.
Incredible moment in podcasting.
You're a little
right?
Well
too
done,
sharp
everybody.
for us. We can't pick up on those
You
kind
have
of
to
things.
be a little
Just
subtle,
to be
less
more, a
subtle,
little more direct.
a little
Yeah.
more direct.
A little
Well,
more direct.
and Sam just brought it right back by trying to suggest that a segue was a non sequitur. So that's okay. It happens.
It's all the same. And Segway
Writers,
is the thing you
right?
ride on a tour.
Doing your language.
All right. It's time for the chat. If you're not watching right now to do the chat, then there's no way you would know that we're calling for it. So you probably have to be here to do it. But let's see. Anything particularly interesting to start? Ardell wrote, Bourque's first career goal happens in Finland. All right. Anybody want to talk about Maverick Bourque's first career goal, or am I just going to angrily go through the rest of our postgame show?
I like it because it was kind of an ugly goal. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
grind
it wasn't
and
working
gritty.
the other way. Get in there, dig around. He's on that line. They, what they did today as a line, they spent a little more time in the offensive zone. Why did they do that? They got pucks in. They outnumbered people. They won some 50-50 battles, and ultimately he gets rewarded for it. Not in this country, but he got a goal, and it's probably going to count.
Yeah, I thought this was one of his better games. I thought he looked really good. He won a lot of battles. A little scary moment there with Schmidt when his skate kind of went up and almost caught Schmidt in the face. Very lucky that he was not injured on that play, but I thought Bourque was really good, so I'm glad to see he got rewarded.
That was the visor.
I hope for him, I hope it's kind of, sometimes you just have to get that first one right. Luds, and you've played with guys, I'm sure, who have been goal scorers, been point producers, and sometimes it takes a weird one going off your knee, one like a hard-working one that just kind of unlocks things. And so for Bourque, I just hope this is kind of the spot where it's like, okay, you got the gritty one. Now you get a little bit of that confidence to keep going.
Jacob writes in, can't blame Jake on all of those goals. Yeah, he probably should have saved at least 2 or 3 of those, but the rest were due mostly to very, very poor defensive plays from Harley and Dumba.
If you're saying your goalie should have saved 2 or 3, they played poorly. It's the NHL. You don't get to say
Yeah.
you should have saved 2 or 3. That's my take on that. If he saved 2 or 3, they would have won 4-3.
And by the way,
I mean,
Sam,
What he said.
the next comment from Lyle is, yes, he is. I know beer league tenders who could have played better than him tonight.
Oh, that's I don't think that's true. I know beer league tenders too, and I don't think that would be the case. But
Is that a beer league hat?
But no, this was
it's
once,
his
I think
late
Sean
game.
said it
It's
earlier.
his movie.
That's-
He's plugging
I
his
thought he
movie.
was a Vikings fan this whole
Dude.
time. I thought he was a Minnesota
He's
guy.
actually a Cowboys fan.
Okay.
That's
I'm sorry
tight.
about your luck.
That's tight. That's tight. No, but this was one of those games, right, where Jake, you can say poorly, you can say not up to par, whatever you want to, however you want to word it. He did not outplay Sergei Bobrovsky, just like we saw him not outplay Stuart Skinner, right? If Bobrovsky stole a couple, Jake didn't. That's the difference in the game.
So there's a whole thing going on in the chat about people saying that Jake had a bad game and people saying, well, you can't blame Otter. He's been so good. And the reason why they won a bunch of their games because they're 7-3 in their first 10. Both can be true, right? Your goalie can be the reason why you've gotten off to a good start and also why you lose a particular game.
Oh, okay. I agree with everybody here, but I don't think there's a goalie on the planet that's going to have 60 perfect games. And if he let in 1 or 2, it happens. And we'll see. Sean, is he playing tomorrow?
I would imagine not. I know.
I agree with you. I didn't think so either. So, but yeah, he didn't have a great game tonight. I mean, it wasn't up to his standards that we saw in the first 5, 6, 7 starts, whatever it is. So there you go.
Do you remember what happened the last time the Stars needed a good performance after a bad one and they didn't start Jake Oettinger?
Did he get a shutout?
No,
Okay.
but
I don't
Casey
even know what we're
DeSmith played
talking
well.
about.
They played in Boston. Remember?
Oh, yeah, he got shelled. Yeah, he was good.
DeSmith was good, but the Stars played their best game of the year.
Well, that was kind of I'm going to scare you guys a little bit thing. But yeah, I think we've seen what Casey can do. So
yeah, he's been sharp so far this year.
But
with
we'll see.
With Oettinger, so last year he had there's a stat called really bad starts, where basically a goalie has under an .850 save percentage, or I think it's basically under an .850 save percentage. And last year, Jake had 10 really bad starts. Of his 54 games, he had 10 really bad starts. The average, like a Connor Hellebuck, had 5 really bad starts. I think a Shesterkin had around 6 last year. In past seasons, Jake's had 8 and 5. Last year, he had 10. For Jake, he gets this. This is allowed to happen. You're allowed to have 4 or 5 games like this a year. That's okay. It's you can't let it be the double-digit one like it was last year. So this happens once. This happens again 3 weeks from now. If this happens 4 or 5 times in this season, that's fine. That's expected. It's when this becomes, if we have this show 7 or 8 more times, then you have a problem. Right now, it's okay to put the blame on this game, but no one here is asking for Jake Oettinger.
No, not at all.
Thrown out. I want the chat to know that. The point is, we are talking about this game. It is a 1-game post-game show, and we are not essentially saying, well, Jake Oettinger's done. He's whatever. He gets 5 or 6 of these a year. He can't get 10 of them like he had last year.
He's not getting put on the block tonight.
So he wanted the chat to know the details of this, but he didn't want to talk more about the Sam Miskevich goal.
You guys got to kiss and make up or something.
We're going to bicker like brothers or something for a little while. We'll make it fun. If he's going to promote his movie like that, which was great, then and I got to chirp him for a double standard on his descriptions. Let's see. I'm seeing a bunch now. There we got to the part of the chat where Sean said John muted me again. That was funny. And then somebody wrote, let's see, it was Steady Rhythms, free Sean. So you have your backers in the chat. And then, of course, John writes, haha, it mutes Sam and Sean automatically when I cut to this studio shot. So he was trying to defend his decision. That's the studio shot. So it wasn't actually a producer muting them on purpose. Is that right, John?
Now I'm muted. Yes, that is correct.
He didn't even unmute his own mic.
I have to be muted because Sean and Sam's voices come through my mic otherwise.
I could not. And then Ardell said John was exercising institutional control. So, yeah, they're having fun in the chat so far. Interestingly, earlier on, I saw this, and let's go to Sam first. Pete DeBoer is being described, I will watch it afterwards, his post-game comments, described as at the podium being a little salty and having to remind the team about being competitive between the first and second period. Do you think that the coach is, whether he wants to hear it or not, a little annoyed about the performance in the first period and then getting the questions from the media about being ready to play the Stanley Cup champs?
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. Yes, that was one of that. I mean, how many people asked them that question over the last 3 weeks about, and all valid questions, right? There's reasons these questions are being asked about distractions and being ready and stuff. It's because look what happened, they weren't ready, and it's because these things do happen when you get overwhelmed. You don't play for a long time. These are all real things. Like sometimes media asks questions that are actually important, not all the time, but sometimes. But yeah, I think I can imagine they were not very happy, and I can imagine when I listen back to this audio that we just got from Mike Heika over there in Finland that he's probably going to be similarly short as he was to that game a couple weeks ago at home, where he just wants to move on and make sure his team is ready to play tomorrow.
I was just reading that quote again to make sure I got it right.
Which one? The guys will be ready?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, Luddy's just said. I'm telling you, we're going to get to a point where we have a "What Did I Tell You" segment with Luds, because
here's
has
the
those
thing,
down.
Luds.
What did he tell you?
Luds was should Pete have said when we asked him last week, "Are your guys going to be ready with all the distractions?" Should he have just said, "No, we're not going to be ready. It's too distracting. We're not going to be ready when the puck drops. We're going to take at least a period to get ready, and then we're going to we'll probably be down 2-0, and then we'll get going."
Hey, Smarty. Hey, Smarty. After going overseas and drinking your face off for a couple days, I would just slow roll it. Yeah, we're expecting a good game. We're expecting this. I expect this. I don't come out and say they'll be ready, and then that just went down the toilet in the first 28 seconds. I'm just saying. Right. I learned from a couple other coaches that would kind of hang stuff out there, but wouldn't hang stuff out there until you proved them right. And like I had another guy that would have spun it like this: if they do what I tell them to do at the start of this game, we're going to have a good game. And then when and you come to the post game and it didn't work out there, I told them if they weren't ready to do this, they always find a way to spin themselves right at the end of it.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious. Let's all jokes aside. Are you surprised that they weren't more ready for this?
I don't. You know what? I don't want to say yes. I said that we were talking about that earlier. I didn't know who were the fans for. Were they for both sides, or was it more comfortable for Barkov and his crew because he had played a game there apparently before? I don't know. And sometimes I think you put some pressure on yourself. You don't have to. Maybe a couple of those guys did. I didn't think Miro had a great game today. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but it just maybe the ocean got him. What were they jumping into? Where they're the cold ocean or whatever.
Can I throw out a non sequitur for Sean?
Sure. I'm sure. Good here we go. You two.
Sean, no, this is a friendly one, Sean. This is about food. This is something we both enjoy. Okay. Jason writes in, does salmon chowder count as a substitute for salmon soup, parentheses, a Finnish delicacy?
Yes, I think.
Why wouldn't
I think the answer is yes. Why wouldn't it be?
Well, because I guess he's questioning, is salmon soup similar to a chowder? Or is it a different kind of
big? Does it have big pieces of salmon on it?
In my view, all chowders are soups, but not all soups are. Wait, hold on. All chowders are soups, and not all soups are chowders.
It's a square rectangle situation.
Okay, let me ask you guys something. Do you think that the Dallas Stars? I mean, since everybody else is jumping into this show,
you should.
Yeah. Do you think the Stars from the side of the Finnish guys that wanted to put a show on today for the fans more than the Panthers just came out and said, I don't care if we're playing here or Nova Scotia or in Green Bay, Wisconsin, here's how we play the game? Or did they play the Stars style? And that's just what it was against a team that is built to kind of counter what you do.
I think from a Florida, let's give Florida credit for something here, because we saw it quite a bit in the playoffs. One of the ways that Florida goes out and starts games, and we've seen it both talking to players, and there's actually a pretty good feature on it in the most recent Amazon series too, where Paul Maurice will simply tell his team if they're not playing well, or he's like, guys, just go hammer the other team. Just don't worry about playing pretty. Just first 5 minutes, don't even worry about the puck. Just go physically impose your will, and whatever that means. And I think the Panthers have done a really good job of that in the last. It's why they reached the Cup final as an underdog. It's why they won the Stanley Cup 1 year later. And the Stars have always, I don't know, like you've watched this team for almost a decade now, and it's not a Pete DeBoer thing. It wasn't a Rick Bowness thing. It wasn't a Jim Montgomery thing. It wasn't a Lindy Ruff thing. You go back, it's just for a decade now, just in key moments in big games. Sometimes they tippy toe into games and they look like they're trying to be fancy and they just don't go out and just seize it. And this was a big game with a lot of pomp and circumstance and everything like that. And the other team they played is really experienced at dealing with pomp and circumstance. Like Florida all the way to the Cup final last year. So one team may have just been emotionally better prepared for this. And that's what the first 10 minutes look like.
Do you think this will ever change the opinion of staff, management, coaching, that you have to play a different type of game to beat a team like the Florida Panthers,
as opposed to your regular type of game?
And I'm talking about winning a championship. Is this style built to win games in the regular season versus in the playoffs, or can it? And it's a new era.
Okay,
we know that.
Hold on, I can sense this is going to be more than just a 10-second answer for anybody. I'm not just looking at Sean, although he's laughing. Let's talk about this up next on the DLS Dallas Stars postgame show. Let's talk about becoming a DLLS diehard, as we all giggle about knowing that I'm keeping us on time here. DLS has an introductory offer that is only going to keep going until next Tuesday, so you only have a couple days left to get the become a diehard for just $4 a month. Go to alldls.com now and join while you still can on this special introductory offer. You can get access to exclusive content on the website, including Luddy's film breakdown, Sam's exclusive interview with Logan Stankoven, Sean's breakdown of roopehintz' game, etc. Plus, you can get access to the Discord, where we just did Luddy's damn Discord channel yesterday, for part of our Halloween show. And there's a lot more that can be involved. It's a great reason to up your level of support of DLLS and our coverage of the Stars, Mavs, Rangers, Cowboys, etc. Okay. Before we get back to this conversation,
everybody obeyed the rules and kept quiet.
Thank you, all three of you. Before we get back to this conversation, which I think is a very good one to have, I wanted to throw out one more question from the chat, and this is aimed at Sam. MB Farina, right? This one is for everyone but Sean. What would you guys do with the lines for the next game, which will be tomorrow?
Yeah, it's a great question. Great question. And I think we should spend 30 minutes talking about this. Oh, he's not on the screen. I think, obviously, I don't think some of the lines worked the way they wanted them to, right? I didn't notice some of the guys that he really wanted to get going. Robertson with the great pass, but I didn't notice him overly into the game. I didn't notice Wyatt Johnston a ton. I really believe that the Stankoven should either be with Maverick Bourque or with on the top line. That's how I think it should be. So I really like the Robertson, Hintz, Stankoven line. I think the Seguin and Marchment line had one of their more quiet games. They still looked good, but one of their quieter games, and that's where those other lines need to step up. And I didn't see a ton from that. I really still want to see more from roopehintz. So my opinion, I put Stankoven back up there, maybe with Robertson, but I really think that Stankoven is someone that has gotten people going, that Pete has wanted to get going before, and I think that's one I would put with Robertson and Hintz.
So since Sean is gone, Sam, let me ask you this question.
Hey, he came back.
Sam, let me ask you a question. So do you think that if the lines went back to the way they were the prior game or prior two games, whatever, that it sends a message that we made, I'm talking about everybody in the coaching staff, made a mistake making the tweaks in this game? I don't know if they could care less about it, but I'm just
I think it's more because, like I said in the pregame, this is what's going to happen all season. It's not normal or unnormal for
I'm not
coaches,
as bad as they
for coaches to shuffle lines, right? So I don't think it's anything where, if they were like, oh, that didn't work, let's throw Robertson back on the top line. I don't think there's any sort of like, we made a mistake, that didn't work. I think it's just shuffle until you find something that at least work for 20 minutes, right? It doesn't need to be a 60-minute great effort and they score 3 goals. It just needs to give some momentum and give them a little bit of confidence in that trio. And I think they need to find a couple more that work better, I think.
All right. We have to do some housekeeping here, fellas.
Oh boy.
No. This is a good thing. Let's start with the Herman Marshall marquee moment of the game. As we have to make sure I actually speak what I'm supposed to. Here it is, your Herman Marshall marquee moment of the game. Pick up your favorite bottle at your closest goody liquor store.
I'll keep it short so you can get back on time. I'm going with Maverick Bourque. Anybody that gets their first NHL goal, I'm giving it to Bourque.
So if you were to not do it from a Stars thing,
I'd probably go.
What's your?
I might have went Bobrovsky. I just.
Well, this isn't your man of the match necessarily. This is just
what the hell? I just gave you the answer. Why do we got to keep talking about it?
The moment
this is
of
your moment
in a 6-4 loss was Maverick Bourque scoring.
Scored that goal, and you know why? Because it's how he scored it. He didn't back away from it. He kept digging in there. There you go. There's your moment.
I was just waiting for to say Mackie
moment of the game.
What's that, Sam?
It looks like I am the marquee moment of the game with the way we have this screen set up here.
He won that one. There you go. Not so much.
I give it to the little guy in yellow behind you.
For every bottle of single barrel straight bourbon whiskey, Herman Marshall donates 15% of its revenue to the Guns N' Hoses Foundation of North Texas. For those who went before, stop into your closest goody liquor store to find your favorite bottle. I want to go back to the chat because one of the guys goes, "Why are we talking about soup?" But we're going to move on. This comment about the style of play, you asked it right before the break. Would you, what do you have an answer for it? Do you think, you were asking about the way that the Panthers play? Do the Stars or do other teams have to play differently to beat them than other teams? Or is it more about the Stars style during the regular season versus playoffs?
I'm concerned about the opponent that you play against. And again, Florida plays a different style of game, and it's more of a territorial game. The 5 men, they're just more dialed in my opinion, to play playoff hockey and to make it difficult on other teams. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just asking that question. Again, maybe tomorrow, Dallas comes in and they beat them, 5-1. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Could happen.
But my thing is, this isn't one game. This is 7 games over the course of 14 days. And which one is the better way? Because I believe playoffs are ultimately about pushing the other team out of the fight or the best players out of the fight. You make it difficult, players quit. If you want to exchange chances, I don't agree with that part unless you have an elite goaltender, which Dallas, I think we're ultimately going to say that there is one there. So I'm just asking the question. The game has changed. It's not the way it used to be. So I just think Florida's got a great recipe. The way it's easy to say because they won the cup, but I watched the way that they play, and they are very predictable. The way that they're going to play, but they have the biggest thing is their skilled players play that way too, and they do their work from below the tops of the circle, sometimes below the dots, and they do their work on the other 3/4 of the rink.
Sean,
I think the fact that Colorado won the cup. I mean, you just look for recent examples, right? Because right now you're looking for how can you win the cup in different ways. Florida won the cup one way last year. Vegas won it 2 years ago, and similar to Florida, but a little bit different. Colorado won it differently the year before that. I think different styles can and still do win Stanley Cups in various ways. Just Florida Dallas would be a tough series for the Stars. Because it's something where I would rule Dallas from figuring it out? No, not at all. But Florida is an elite team with Stanley Cup experience, and they'd probably be favored against most teams in a 7-game series right now. So let's also give them credit where it is too.
Yeah. I think Lud's one interesting point is you just mentioned, we talked about, Sean, I think, was talking about how Jim Montgomery was outcoached in a lot of playoff series and didn't make the right adjustments. Pete DeBoer is kind of the opposite. Pete DeBoer, the Stars have lost every game won since 1947 and still found a way to go to Game 6 of back-to-back Western Conference Finals. So he's obviously Pete DeBoer.
What?
There you go. Pete DeBoer can obviously adjust well on the fly. So it's kind of interesting here where it's not a 7-game series. We're not going to get to see the same intricacies and all that stuff, but we do get a day right now where Pete DeBoer and his staff go back to the hotel and they get to adjust for another game tomorrow and try to go against what Sean and Luds just talked about, a team that is very hard to adjust to.
And tomorrow's a really fun coaching matchup because Pete DeBoer and Paul Maurice are really close friends. Pete DeBoer is effectively became a coach because Paul Maurice, they were coaching he was coaching the junior Red Wings at the time in the OHL, and basically Paul Maurice was looking for an assistant coach who was willing to do it for very little money. And Pete DeBoer continued to work on his law degree at the University of Windsor and the University of Detroit at the same time, and then coached hockey with Paul Maurice in the afternoons and the evenings. So it's two guys who know each other so well and have clashed before in the NHL. Like tomorrow's gonna be a really fun game to watch if you want to nerd out and watch how coaches try to match each other, because there's no surprises, and that might actually be the best example of what could happen in a playoff series is tomorrow, because playoff series, Luds, as we've talked about before, it's all about. It's one thing to prep for a team on game 7 or 8 of the game 60 of the regular season or whatever. In the playoff series, when the other team knows what you're going to do, that's when you make your money and you figure out your style of how you're going to out manipulate the other team. And tomorrow, with the back-to-back against the same team, this is about the closest thing you're going to get to it. So, big game for Pete DeBoer tomorrow. Let's call it that.
And you could tune in tomorrow and watch us watch that hockey all day long.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that's a segue right there.
Not a non sequitur, Sam. A segue.
Excellent non segue, boys.
No, that doesn't work either.
We should definitely have at least part of a segment tomorrow of what adjustments did each side make. I think that would be really cool to kind of keep track.
What adjustments will they make?
I don't think Dallas will make any changes. I don't, because I think they believe in who they are. I was just asking the question, like, again, and I agree with Sean, if Dallas plays a similar like team, they will beat them in the playoffs. I'm talking down because I think they're deeper in that thing. But I don't expect maybe a lineup change, but they're not going to change their style.
All right, I have a question for all three of you. So we'll start with Sam. Do the Stars make any lineup changes other than in goal tomorrow? Basically, does Oscar Beck play? And if so, who comes out?
That's the thing. My first initial thing is to say yes, put him in. Physical, big body could help them maybe in the physicality, but who comes out? So I don't have an answer to that. I don't know the answer because I don't think anyone should be coming out of that lineup as well. Like you're not taking Maverick Bourque out.
Yeah, I could still see Bourque coming out. That's the thing. Like I agree with Sam, but yes, he got the gritty goal in there and everything like that. Still played 9:43 tonight, lowest of any forward. And if, from a coaching perspective, you're serious about getting Beck involved and keeping everyone going, he's still the guy that comes out. I don't know if I would agree with that decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out. And then from a coaching perspective, you would also just have the very simple, teachable moment of like, you got the first goal, kid. That's great. You're going to be back in soon, but this is a team, and we want to keep this going. So if Bourque's out tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised. But it's also not the decision I would make. But it also wouldn't surprise me.
I think you can take. I mean, if that's what you're trying to do is get somebody in, I think that would be that. Regardless if you scored a goal or not, you don't take Blackwell out. I mean, I like the way Steele plays. You need that grit down there, I think, to play against these guys. And I think if there is a change, let's not get hung up and say that because they scored 2 late goals when the game was basically over, that they shouldn't make some changes. Right. I mean, there's not a ton of changes you can make. I don't think they're going to take a defenseman out, and put Smith in. I don't think, unless somebody's banged up a little bit. But I think if there is a change, it will be, I'll say Steele also.
Okay.
Would it surprise you though, with this history and this coaching staff? And I know he's been playing a lot better this year and has shown, but like if Nils Lundkvist was to come out tomorrow. Like it wouldn't surprise me either. That's the other thing too.
That was the only one I would see going on the defensive end. But question for anyone who wants to answer, I really don't know the answer to this. If let's say Maverick Bourque is not an option to come out, let's say the coaching staff decides we want him to play the next 10 games. Who do you take out if you wanted to get Beck or someone else in? Honestly,
I wouldn't take Blackwell out. I mean, are we down to that? Well, Steele. Well, again, are your options Steele and Blackwell? You're not taking out anybody on the other 9, are you?
What about like a Dodonov?
No, I don't think they do that. Again, I think anybody other than Beck and Bourque right now would cause a surprise, right?
Okay, that was my question.
Not for tomorrow, but from the 10-game perspective, this is where the way I view things and the way I would operate as a coach are very different to the way many modern coaches run things. Like, I have made this case before. Now, you would never get Jamie to ever buy into it, but I have made the case many times before where Jamie Benn is the perfect example of he should be load managed. He's a guy who should probably play 60 regular season games so you can get 25 peak games of Jamie Benn in the playoffs. So you've got some other older veterans who you're trying to, once again, this whole thing is about winning the Stanley Cup, right? It's something that they won't do because it's not a hockey thing, and I understand getting the players to buy into it is would be very difficult. But not for tomorrow, not for a big marquee event in Finland, Sam, but over the 10 games, I would have get him in as much as possible because you've got some veteran guys who are going to take some wear and tear. Use all your tools so this team can go and win those fights and push other teams out of the battle like Lutz talks about in the spring.
Yeah, I think you're starting to have those conversations with players around game 60. You know, and again, if somebody's got a little nick on them or something like that, you know, those guys you're talking about, hey, take a rest here for a couple of games or whatever. But I think that, again, I don't want to be 2 or 3. I want to be number 1. And let's not start taking guys out and I don't know if the Jets are going to slow down. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, they're good. They're
you know, might never lose.
All right, we are out of time, but quickly, Sam, who's your man of the match today? Best player in the game?
Alexander Barkov, just by far.
Sean?
I will give it's Barkov, but Reinhart with an honorable mention. He's been a stud lately, and he was really good tonight. So, but Barkov is one for me.
I guess I've already threw a couple out there, but since nobody's taken Reinhart, I'll take Reinhart.
Yeah. So Reinhart, Barkov. Barkov had 4 points, goal and 3 assists. Reinhart had 2 goals, 1 assist for 3 points. I thought Ekblad was good, 3 assists, couple of primaries there. And honorable mention to Bobrovsky. He made the saves he had to make when there were key moments. But yeah, it's Barkov. Okay, last thing for us is we will do our show tomorrow. It is a watch-along. Our pregame show starts at 10:30, which means you'll be able to watch me and Luds watch the game because Sam is remote and Sean's not on the broadcast tomorrow. But we'll be in here watching the game, so you can watch us watch the game. It's a weird Inception kind of thing. And that'll start right at 11 after our pregame show. Fun. Doesn't it?
Little tease for you guys. We are going. I'm just going to say what it is because I know Luds isn't going to know what it is until we do it tomorrow anyway.
He might look it up.
Don't Google it, Luds. Owen and I are going to attempt to teach Luds how to do the immaculate grid on
the what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The immaculate what?
We're going to explain what it is tomorrow.
Well, what is it called again?
It's called Immaculate Grid. You're not allowed to look it up.
Okay, I won't.
But I actually think Luddy will be quite good at this.
Yeah, wait, you're an immaculate
grid.
You're not a Puck Doku guy. You're an immaculate grid over Puck Doku.
Actually, I think Puck Doku is better. So maybe it's just two different websites. But I think we'll do Doku.
I have made the guest puzzle at Puck Doku before, so that is
really?
I have allegiances there.
You have no idea what's going on right now, do you? Yep. He's going to close up his thing. So listen,
just bring a calculator.
Make sure to follow us on Twitter at DLS_stars. Go to Twitter right now. There is a Twitter poll as Luds recaps of his Herman Marshall. Should Jake Oettinger start tomorrow?
This is my player of the game right here.
There you go. So go to the poll. Make sure you vote for that. And by the way, speaking of Twitter,
Sam showing off his
Sean
non-mustache.
caught a stray or maybe a direct shot because this was tweeted out a few minutes ago. And it says, everyone gangsta until, quote, guest has.
I went a full 8 minutes without talking. A la Sam the other day. So I went with the mute that way.
It must have been when we were talking about line combinations.
Was he just live?
Oh yes.
Yes.
Oh,
he still is live.
Oh, is he?
I'm live right now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
He's doing his best Fred Durst impersonation right there.
Yes.
Let's end the show, boys. Hey.
Hey, Shorzy.
Well, there you go. 6-4. Panthers beat the Stars today. Another game in Finland tomorrow, which will be at 11 a.m. Pregame show at 10:30. For all the nonsense that is the DLS Dallas Stars postgame show, Sam, Sean, Luds, me, and John, thanks for watching. Maybe a UPL kind of finish, John, to get us out of here today.
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
We all silly like the mayor.